So, just thinking about some of the things I went over earlier. I know I said some things about Trump, um, but something that you have to understand is how much our culture and this country is influenced by Freemasons to the point in which one of my favorite preachers ever, I had to bring certain things into question with. And it's not to question the work of God on his life. And I know people would deem that I'm trying to do that. And in some ways I do, but I don't do it to the point of condemnation, because ultimately that's up to the Most High, and we don't know what knowledge people had. But I talked about Freemasonry with Trump, and so one of my favorite American preachers happens to be Billy Graham. And so I know different people are probably going to get offended by this either way, but I don't care about that neither. But Billy Graham was a very passionate, charismatic preacher in the 70s. And so, he was one of the biggest TV preachers of his time. And he brought a lot of people to Christ. And I loved, when I started listening to Billy Graham, about time, it came my time to listen to him. He was an older guy at that time, but, you could still see the passion and the fire that he preached with. And that's something that, I became used to when it came to Pentecostal, because that's part of my background. Like, I'm used to seeing people who believe in the gifts of the Spirit and different things like that. And so, I like Billy Graham's passion. Also that he was one of the major white preachers to, bring out things in a way implying that the people who were originally in the land were people of color. And once I realized that about him, that was something that, I respected a lot more, because a lot of preachers don't mention that stuff, especially popular ones in America, and especially white preachers. Like, they're not going to talk about things concerning different things with the transatlantic slave trade, nor connected to historical events involving God's people. Oh, that's cool. I ain't coming over there. It's too wet. This dang goose try to flap his wings. I want smoke too. But I'm sorry. You gotta be on what type of timing things be on in your surroundings sometimes. Hold your ground. But so finding that stuff out about Billy Graham, it kind of grieved me. And finding out different things can, make you question God if you don't have a proper foundation. But also, on this note, Billy Graham, he did what he did for God. And that doesn't mean that he didn't lead people to God sincerely, and that he will go unrewarded. But on the subject of, understanding when we're, being linked to false gods and different things, anybody who knows certain things about Freemasonry, and that's why it's interesting when people do want to become silent on certain things. But anybody that knows certain things about Freemasonry knows that the God of Freemasonry isn't the God of the Bible. And so that's the problem. Whenever you are yoked under something, whatever the God is in that said thing, Whether it could be, this ain't even just talking about religion and so, or beliefs, because I don't believe that the belief of the Bible is religion, but we'll get into that at a different point. But the fact of the matter is, not having knowledge of certain things, once you find out certain things, especially as a baby believer, and you don't have proper foundation, you don't know how to put the book into proper perspective, then things like that can demoralize you. It can make you think that it's a normal, so you can accept that thing as a normal thing. Like, well, if he did it, so it's okay if all these other guys did it, and it's not necessarily okay. But as I said, some people do things in ignorance, and we got to provide grace for that, because only God knows the heart of man, and we got to let God be the judge of man's heart. We got to let God weigh the heart of man, and that's why I continue to provide the grace, because I know I need it. But it's still very alarming to anybody who is aware of certain things that somebody so prominent and who has led so many people to the Lord could, number one, be involved in something like that, but as well, it makes you question whether or not he knew more than he ever spoke on. But, giving the man grace, as I said, in my opinion, he done the work of the Lord. He's led people to God. And, ultimately, as far as his salvation and different things, those are things that he has to work out with the Lord himself. Just like, I have to go before the Lord or stand before him for things that I've done in my life, or things that I've been unrepentant of. And so knowing that myself, it should give us enough wisdom to be able to provide people grace when needed. Peace.